Alrighty, so today we're going to be talking about Fanatical Prospecting by Philly P. That's me. Okay, so kind of getting into it, if you want to move slides. Um, so I kind of broke down the words here just to start off of Fanatical Prospecting to kind of get a true understanding on a definition basis here. So fanatical is to be filled with excessive and single-minded zeal. I underlined single-minded because we'll get into that a little bit later. And zeal I had to look up too, and it's the same word as zealous. Great energy or enthusiasm in pursuit of a cause or an objective. And in our case here, our cause and objective is to prospect. So if you put it all together, it's you're filled with excessive and single-minded energy or enthusiasm in pursuit of prospecting. And of course, prospecting is to look out for and to search for. And I guess, kind of finishing the whole thing off, who are we searching for and who are we looking for? It's people to do business with, people to create relationships with, and also to share our purpose to. And so kind of moving forward on the slides, I wanted to also start off a super high level. After going through the book myself, I wanted to kind of lay out what fanatical prospecting, what I've kind of gained, what I've kind of defined it as myself from a super high level. So it's always being on, you want to be fanatical. You want to always be prospecting, not 24/7, but 25/8. You always want to, there's always opportunities there to be taken. And that's the proper mindset to have, whoever you're around, I'm fortunate enough to be in an office where there's a bunch of different businesses and people coming and going. So it's just a hotbed to prospect, there's always opportunities there. And then you also got to be creative with it. And I'll touch on this a little bit later as well. But in order to be a great prospector, to be a good prospector from the best prospector, you have to be a little bit of creative. And then kind of to conclude it, it's, you don't want to leave any stone unturned. And that kind of goes, there's always opportunities there. So it kind of summarizes it, what we're going to talk about from a really high level basis. And so getting into what the mindsets are, there's 7 of them, according to Jed Blount, who is the author of Fanatical Prospecting. And so he kind of gets into detail of, 7 mindsets to have to be a really good prospector. And so the first one, you have to be optimistic and enthusiastic. You got to understand that each day is a new opportunity from the last, no matter how bad yesterday was. It's super important to wake up and be optimistic and just spearhead the day. Number 2, to be a good prospector and a fanatical prospector, you have to be competitive. Again, you have to understand that each day is a new competition. And you're competing against, a number of people. You're competing against yourself from the day before. You're also competing against the status quo in the industry, as well as just, by definition, our competition as a firm. And that's who you're competing against. The third one, you have to have confidence. If you expect to win and you believe you're going to win, then you're going to win. There's a quote, I think we mentioned it in one of the presentations before, but it kind of goes along the lines, if you believe you're going to win or believe you're not going to win, either way, you're both right. You're right at both. And I forgot who said it, but that kind of goes right in line with this third mindset here. And then moving forward, you have to be relentless when you're prospecting. If I were to choose 2 words, it'd be persistence and having tenacity. You're getting, at least, on our side of the sales, you're getting kicked in the teeth every single day, rejection after rejection. It's just, you have to be relentless. You have to keep picking up the phone. You have to keep pushing forward, and, those opportunities will come. And number 5, the thirst for knowledge. And of course, this can be applied for any aspect in life, really. It's kind of the way you accept and take feedback for improvement. If you can't really take feedback well, there's no way you're going to progress in anything you're really trying to do. You have to accept your mistakes. You have to accept that idea of just, of learning. You want to learn as much as you can. And so that's pretty much, thirst for knowledge. Number 6, systematic and efficient. And this really kind of boils down to the dichotomy between efficiency and effectiveness. Let me just scroll right here for a sec. Yeah. So you want to have both efficiency and effectiveness. And this is a topic within its own, but just to save time, if you're super efficient, but not as effective, or vice versa, you're leaving more on the table than you should in terms of prospecting. So in order to be the best prospector that you can, and just the best at sales, you want to maximize both being effective and efficient. And finally, you want to have an adaptive and flexible mindset. And this kind of touches on being the creative side as well. There's so many different ways to get your message across and to kind of prospect to all these people that you're going to be exposed to. And that's flexibility. In terms of being adaptive, it's almost, when you are talking to people, you're not going to know, their background. You're not going to know what they're going to throw at you. So you kind of have to read the room. You kind of have to be on your toes and, just have situational awareness when you're having these conversations and you're prospecting, And so moving forward as well, Jeb Blount, a little background on him. He was a quarterback at Tulsa. I think it was University of Tulsa. I'm not sure if I got that right, but he also spent time in the NFL and was pretty successful there. So while reading the book, you can really tell his voice as an author, super motivational. He's very animated in how he narrates the book. And Tom, I know you listened to it on audio, and I haven't yet, but from what I know, the way you described it is he's almost like yelling at you, and he's super motivating, right? Yeah. And so
he's intense on it.
Yeah. He's a very intense guy, and he's got 50K followers on LinkedIn. I looked him up just before this, and so he's out there and he's pushing ahead. But I thought I'd include some quotes here to kind of give light on how he on how he lays the book out, and also kind of the idea of being a fanatical prospector. This is his voice and how he projects it. And so the first one, he says, the more you prospect, the luckier you get. And this quote, I think it's on chapter 5. I know it's supposed to only go up to chapter 4, but it really just illustrates that it's not a game of luck, but of numbers. The more you prospect, it's not the luckier you get. It's just the more success you're going to have. And so I think this is a great quote. I wanted to put it first. The more you prospect, the luckier you get. Second one down, great salespeople are skipping meals and doing deals. It's the more, if you want to lose weight, I guess, prospect, you know what I mean? Just keep prospecting. And then the third one down, he says your scarcest resource is time. And this goes along with a common motif in our educations is, time blocking and not managing time, but managing your priorities. And he spends a good deal on this as well in the first few chapters. Is just how important it is to really set your priorities straight at the beginning of the day and just set time, block your time out, no distractions, no phones, no nothing, just to only prospect. And obviously each business is going to be different. For us, if we want to time block 2 hours at a time, just hit the phones. That's what it takes. Our scarcest resource is time. And the second one from the bottom, stop wishing that things were easier and start working to become better. And it's basically what this boils down to is no one else is going to prospect for you. It just doesn't work like that. You can't delegate work to prospect. I mean, you kind of can, but in the business that we're on, and how we want to create relationships create relationships, it's something that you just have to do. You have to become better at it. And then the final one, this I took from, it's a longer quote, and the beginning of the quote is, there's always something I'd rather be doing than calling on the phone. I get over it and I do it anyway. And, it's, as you can tell, this is kind of his voice when writing. And this last quote is a good segue into the next slide here, is that, calling, it sucks sometimes, prospecting sucks. And it's never going to get easier, no matter how you do it. It's almost like working out. If you're working out properly and you're adding weight every time, it's never going to get easier. And so he also spends a little bit of time here, and he talks about fear when prospecting. And how he kind of says it is, how do you deal with fear? He just says, face it. There's no other way you're going to do it. You have to pick up the phone and dial. And I also thought I'd open it up to everyone listening here. Is I guess the question is like, how do you go about dealing with fear in non-prospecting, but overall? And I'll share mine first as well. And I guess, how do you go about dealing with uncomfortable situations, or, those subtle situations where you're dealing with, other people, or just in general, how you deal with it. And for me, so in terms of prospecting, the fear usually comes before I call. And so to give you, for instance, if I got a guy that's, a senior vice president, he's got 30 years under his belt, and he's got every reason to deny me once I call him. That's when my fear kind of happens. And how I naturally would deal with it is, when I was working from home, I would actually kind of procrastinate before that call, and I'd go eat. It's the funniest thing. I'd go eat and snack. I just walk in the kitchen, grab a piece of bread, and make myself feel a little bit better, and then call the guy, And that changed, obviously, now that I've got a place to just make calls here, and so I can't go and eat. So it turned into kind of almost social media. I'd kind of make myself a little bit feel better, give me some confidence, and I almost like click on Instagram. But the way I kind of got around that is, obviously, is self-discipline is the first thing. But then it got to a point where, like, I would put a stop on my phone. I don't know how you call it on Apple. It's like, if I can block out time so I don't get notifications. And even if I click on an app, it'll say, hey, are you sure you want to enter this app? And I'm like, no, you're right, I shouldn't. So then I cancel out of it and I just call them. And so that's kind of how I dealt with the fear, of some of these guys, of calling. And that was obviously at the beginning. And as the second point there, the fear withers away with time. And so that's kind of how I've kind of worked around it and come to become comfortable with it. Of course, in a number of different reasons. But I thought I'd ask everyone as well if they kind of share their situation and how you kind of, deal with fear in a sense.
Oddly, when I have to make calls that I don't really want to make, I stand up when I make the calls. I don't know. It makes it's a different thing. I don't know why, but it gets you feeling like, okay, I'm not going to get kicked in the teeth sitting down. I'm going to get kicked in the teeth sitting up.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that. That's good, Tom. What about you, Dan, the man? Is Dan still here?
Am I having stuff on mute?
Yeah. I don't know, Dan, if you're on mute or not, but Michelle, what about you?
I don't think I can hear you, Dan. Oh, I might have cut out there. Sorry. What'd you say, Dan? Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
What about you, Michelle? I don't know if Michelle's on here.
Yeah, I'm here. I didn't hear Dan either, so I think he might have cut out for a minute. Yeah. But can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. Dealing with fear. Oh gosh, I have a lot of it. So that's interesting. Obviously I don't have a ton of fear with the prospecting, but I would say, I really love what you said, Tom, about standing up. I think I learned a little while ago about this is really funny, a power stance that you can take, which is like you stand up and then you kind of like have like you stand kind of wide legged, and then you put your hands on your hips, and then you kind of look up a little bit, just with like good posture. You have a straight back, and then you look up, and then you're just breathing. And the whole idea is that, and I think this is especially probably for women, the whole idea is that you're kind of like telling your body that it's okay to take up space. And so there's something magical about it. It really does give me confidence. So sometimes if I have a meeting I'm nervous for or something like that, I can kind of get into that power stance just for a minute or two, just breathe, just be in it. And then I just end up, I don't know, it calms my anxiety. And I just feel like, you know what, I've got this. I've got the confidence to do this thing. So that's just one way. I have many other ways, but that's just one way that I kind of handle fear in my life when it kind of rears its ugly head.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And it's just, everyone's so different the way they deal with it. And I guess the point to take away from this part is that it goes away with time. The more you do it, the more you're going to get comfortable with it. Yeah. And I mean, in the business that we're in, it's just, you have to have an understanding that rejection also is never going to go away. And after you can comprehend that, it all kind of settles in and it all kind of flows after that. So I thought I'd add this slide in as well. And I think it's really important, especially to the new guys coming on and, and watching us in the future. And so kind of bring things in here. He also mentions, so prospecting, it's simple, but it's not easy. And that's kind of the common motif here. It's simple in the fact that really all you're doing is just reaching out to people, and you're contacting people and telling them what you do. That's the simple part. The easy part is the not easy part is that there's so many ways of doing it, and you've got to deal with fear. You got to deal with who you got to contact and how you got to contact them. And so I kind of broke it down here in relevance to what we do. So he mentions a really good point here is that you want to diversify the methods that you're contacting people, and also diversify the people that you're talking to as well. And so obviously calling, I think, is going to be easiest for really any business, and especially ours as well. All we're really doing is just calling people over and over, and it's a great way to get in contact with people. Another thing that I think the most impactful is meeting them in person, and obviously, that's the goal. And when we do call them, is to get in front of them, and that just builds trust that you can't get over a phone, because you're just a voice on the line. You're not sitting there in front of them and reading the personalities there. And then obviously you got emails, which work great. And then, LinkedIn its job is to network. So, LinkedIn is a great source. And then if you can get your foot in the door in conferences, that kind of, again, goes in tandem with meeting in person. And, those conferences are there to network. And so I think those methods there are really core in terms of prospecting. And the people you want to reach out to. So you want to reach out to a multitude of different people. And he mentions this in the book as well, is that when the market does fluctuate, different sources of business are going to fluctuate as well, but they're going to fluctuate differently. So, when the market dips, commercial brokers aren't going to be your guys, but those guys that are financial advisor or attorneys are going to have those sources and that pipeline to fill those sources to fill your pipeline in a sense. So it's just as important to diversify the way you're contacting people as well as the people that you're contacting. And I think, if I were to take one thing off of this slide and off of this idea, and I guess this presentation as a whole, is that anyone can be a source. When you're prospecting 25/8, you gotta understand that anyone can create value, can be value to you. You just have to reach out and find it in a sense, And so to kind of land the plane here on the next and final slide, I thought I'd include one more quote from the book. It's stop seeking the easy way out and just start interrupting and engaging people. And I think that really just kind of embodies what fanatical prospecting is. And lucky enough for us, Nike just came out with a new slogan, and it's not just do it, it's just prospect. So I appreciate everyone listening.